What's better, a larger church or a smaller church? What do people prefer? That's what we're talking about today on the To Be the Church podcast. Welcome to the To Be the Church podcast, where we explore what it looks like to truly be the church in today's culture. Tyler, Andrew, Ben, we're all here today. Before we get started, we did get this screenshot from a listener, and Cody, I'll send this to you so you can put it on the video. But somebody sent us this screenshot and said, YouTube search results, some sort of new partnership. And so for those of you who are listening, they search Northwest Gospel Church on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is there where you can watch our live stream and stuff. But then next to it, sponsored, is subscribe to Joel Osteen for daily wisdom and encouragement. And so
we have the Best Life Now game, but we've covered up Joel's face with my Paul Washer impression.
Yeah. So big question, is there a new partnership? Or is there some discernment that we want to do right now based on last week's episode?
Yeah. Not technically a partner of ours.
Okay.
And nothing to announce there. I mean, at least not at EV. Camus, you guys partnered there?
Yeah, we're merging with them actually. Yeah.
Becoming a satellite?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the name of his church?
Lakewood Bible, something.
I like how you know that.
Wow.
I have a discernment blog, so
it's called Lakewood Church,
blog a lot,
which will be called Lakewood Church, Camas, Washougal. So.
One of the largest churches in the country, which is a segue into our subject for the day.
Bro, he is 60 years old.
Wow.
Osteen.
Wow.
Man.
He's aging well.
I was going to say, I need to figure out what his
I think I could tell you.
vitamin routine is.
Here we go.
72-hour fast.
Big church, small church. Is it easier to go to a big church or a small church?
To go to one.
Yes. What do people prefer?
I mean, as far as that question goes, I think everybody's different. Like, I think there's, obviously people who would like highly prefer a room where they know everybody, and people who highly prefer like a larger crowd and more like production or like more whatever,
What do you think for Christians though overall? Big church or small church?
I mean, it depends if people want like a concert or like the word, and so it's like,
wow. I honestly think that more people prefer small churches.
100%. That's totally my argument too.
Yeah. Even people who go to church here say like, oh, like I totally only went to small churches before this. Like a lot of people.
Yep. Dude,
but then they're coming to a large church.
Yeah, but the vast majority of people, dude, would way prefer. I would say it's like 90%.
I don't know if
90%, dude. Take it to the bank. Could be 90.1%.
But then why? So we can kind of do an analysis here of our two churches, which are both growing, but EV, a large church, is growing at a much faster.
Don't say faster rate. You're growing at a faster rate.
Percentage-wise, for sure. You guys are.
Your percentage growth this year will be twice what ours is. It's a different number.
Yeah,
we're growing by more people, but the percentages are different because of the sizes. So you're growing at a faster rate. Don't get it. You are pastoring. You shouldn't have tried to talk metrics.
I shouldn't have tried to talk numbers.
So check this out.
You are pastoring the fastest growing church in the Northwest.
Yeah,
that might not be a lie.
I don't think that's true.
I think it's true, Ben.
Well, yeah, because it's small, but it seems to me that lots of people love coming to big churches. That's why they're big churches. Like there are plenty of small churches for those 90% of people to come to, and they don't go to them.
We need some stats here. The majority of churches in America are what? They're
under small.
100. They're under 100. 90-something%, isn't it?
I know, but there's a lot of big churches.
Yeah.
So,
and the percentage of people who go to big churches, especially post-COVID, has increased, I think. The numbers that are out there, you got some data.
Yeah. So check this out. This is from a 2020 report. So this is probably all gathered pre-COVID. But so there are a lot more congregations that are small. 44% of congregations are between 1 and 50.
Wow.
25% more of those are between 51 and 100. So that's 69% that are under 100.
7 and 10. Wow.
Yep. Another 21% are between 101 and 250.
Wow.
Okay. With only
90% of churches are under 250.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
With only 10% of churches being 251 or more. Now, attendance.
Yes.
It inverts completely.
Yeah.
So only 6% of people who go to church go to a church between 1 and with 1 and 50. So 44% of the churches only have 6% of attendees in it.
Wow.
And then it goes 6.
Dude, I love Ben's face when you start to go into more numbers, man. He's just like, see you later, bro.
You're talking Chinese?
Yeah. So 6%, 1 to 50, 8% of attendees, 50 to 1 to 100, 15% of attendees, 101 to 250, 70% of people who go to church go to a church of 250 or more.
Okay.
But there's only 10% of the congregations.
70. Wow. So 70% of congregations are under 100, but 70% of the people who go to churches above 250, that's not a big church. I'm talking, for purposes of this conversation, let's say smaller church, 300 or less, and mid-sized church, 3 to 8, and then 800 to 1,000 plus would be larger church, right? So,
but yeah, so you're saying there's obviously more small congregations than large, but of all the Christians in America, way more of them go to larger churches than small churches.
Yeah, so I guess my argument was totally absolutely.
I mean, if you just think about the numbers of it all,
yeah,
and just crunch them again.
Yeah, so would we call that a self-own, Ty? Because we were kind of on the same side. Own goal? Yeah. I think they call it an own goal.
I think people would like smaller churches if they just gave us a try.
But dude, here's the thing though. The church attendance though, and here's what percentage of people who go, because To Be the Church podcast, we talked about this years ago. In fact, we have a mug that has this on it. It's not the percentage of people, not the number of people in your church. It's the
number church, how much church is in your people.
Yeah.
That mug's right there.
Yeah. It's a mug. Yeah. To Be the Church podcast. Does it matter how many people are in your church or does it matter how much church is in your people? Such a strong theological statement. And there's a little,
what about that other mug up there? I was just reading that one too. That's a good one.
No one whose testicles are crushed can enter the assembly of the Lord. So, Jake Gamble. And Moses said that.
I feel like we should. I feel like we should explain that. Okay. Jake was talking about. Yeah. Okay. Let's just talk about it for a minute.
Okay.
So, Jake Gamble.
You're the author of the mug.
So Jake Gamble was preaching one time
years ago,
and he was talking about the eunuch, right? And like how this guy,
Acts 8.
Yeah. How this would have been like not good, like as far as like his ability to enter the presence of the Lord, stuff like that. And so he mentioned Deuteronomy 23, and he prefaced it with, "Now I'm going to read this, but this is not a verse that you put on a pillowcase or on a mug and sell in a Christian bookstore." And then he read this verse, and it's about the eunuch, or it's connected. It says, "No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off shall enter the assembly of the Lord." Deuteronomy 23:1. But he said you won't find that on a mug. And we were changing our name to Northwest Gospel Church at that point. And so we sent Jake a package in the mail with some other stuff, just like saying thanks and all that. But we had this LPC, the last bit of LPC stuff we ever made, this mug made for him. And we made a couple extra just to have around.
Yeah, I think we have 4 of them total or something. But yeah, so that's the last object that the LPC logo was printed on, right?
Yeah. There's some people who are not happy about that right now, I'm sure. But
so anyway, so how in the heck did we get there? So the
mug,
how much church is in your people?
Yeah, big church, small church. And so, dude, what percentage of people that adhere, and I use that word like adherence is a certain metric within big church world, especially like how many people go, well, how many adherents do you have? It's like, well, 97,000. And it's like people who have ever even entered the door of that church. How many people adhere to a large church that they're not Christians? They're just kind of a cultural thing, or they come every once in a while, or they're just real fringe and not. So genuine Christians, and there's no data for this, obviously, because it's like we can't know all that. But
there's one way to measure it, maybe.
Yeah.
So based on an average attendance percentage or number of members, so percentage of people that are averagely attending that are members, right? So if you had, that'd be interesting between our two churches, like
the percentage of attendees, regular attendees that are members.
Yeah. So if you have 1,500 people attending, how many members regularly attending? That would kind of show you, I think, like more than just attendance, but engagement.
Tyler can bring that up right now.
Yeah, this will only be adults.
Okay. And for context, so bigger church and a smaller church, and the Camas is running about 150 on Sunday mornings now. NGC East Vancouver here is running this last month. It was 14 to 1,500 a Sunday on Sunday mornings. And so those are the two size dynamics. So it's a larger church and a smaller church, totally in different life cycles, obviously, the church, but like at different facility sizes in a similar community, obviously. I would say we're a bit more suburban than you. Like you're probably suburban/rural-ish. I mean,
yeah, with Washougal people and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we draw from the similar areas, similar, community, whatever else.
So this is pretty intense. So just looking at adults, because these numbers don't include kids of member families.
Yeah.
But you guys are running about 2/3 of the people, they're 2/3 of the members to attendance. So
65%.
Like 2 out of 65%
of the people who attend are members.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then at East Vancouver,
I feel like it's going to be like 30%.
yeah, it'll be a lot lower than that.
This is great content.
It's about it's like
The dead
it's
silence.
4 for every 14.
Okay.
4 out of every 14.
You're going to make me do the math. Ben, do that in your head.
28%.
Yeah, 30%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So legit twice the number of people that attend there.
Well, and this is anecdotal.
Percentage-wise.
This is anecdotal for sure. And it just numerically, it has to be this way. Like this is just how it is. But I look around at East Vancouver on Sunday morning, and there's just tons of people that I don't have any idea who they even are.
100%.
Right?
And
that's
more and
just,
more all the time.
Yeah. And that's a bummer to me. But it's just reality. And I'll go over to campus. I led music there a few weeks ago, and I don't know people, but I'll ask somebody who's that? And they're like, oh, that's so-and-so. They help with women's Bible study. Yep. Oh, that's so-and-so. They do this. And it's it seems like, and again, anecdotal, that when I look around the room at CW, it's like the percentage of people that are deeply involved in the ministry and that are, and we would say probably even growing because they're deeply involved in the ministry, that percentage is significantly higher at a small church than it is at a church like East Vancouver.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by necessity. And that's one of the issues with big church, dude, is the aspect of the tendency toward consumerism, toward the tendency toward anonymity.
Yeah, it's easy to be anonymous.
Which is a major, major problem for discipleship, for shepherding, for all those sorts of things, for living out the Christian life. So yeah, the question would be, and obviously church health is a major, major factor in this, because you could be in a really dysfunctional small church or a really healthy small church, a really dysfunctional big church or a really healthy big church. And so those are real major factors in this. But so all things being equal, if both churches are healthy, and I think by all available metrics we could figure out, both of our churches, Ben, are really healthy right now. They're a lot of involvement, mission, a lot of baptisms, a lot of new people connecting, a lot of growth. The growth trajectories for both have been really strong in the last several years. And so, what's preferable, a big church or a small church?
I don't think biblically we could make any sort of dogmatic statement. Obviously, in the early church, 3,000 baptized, and they're making it work somehow with the apostles still living and doing all those things. But then they're also going from house to house. Church in Philippi starts with just a few, and then it grows. So I don't know. I think what really should be the metric is, what is the church doing, right? Is it following the house rules that God has laid out in the New Testament? And I think you can do that at any size. I do think there are certain difficulties in a larger church, even a church like EV, that you guys are being really intentional with membership and those things. It's just not realistic to be able to really connect with everyone that's coming and get them into membership. Whereas at CW, it's probably likely that if you come for a few weeks in a row, you're going to talk to me or Max or Greg, and we're going to be able to get you plugged into the next 101. And so, because it's a lot easier with a lot smaller group.
But then what do you do if it continues to grow at the rate it's growing?
Well, you need more leaders, you need more elders, right? But yeah, there's a lot that we could talk about too about just church leadership, and I think certain guys are better suited for different sizes. We've kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday, but One thing this is obviously related, but this could maybe be another episode. But I've been kind of thinking about this and convicted a little bit for CW and just my whole ministry life. Is I think there's been a disconnect between when we baptize people, we're not intentionally saying you're baptized into church membership and making sure that that's a next soon follow-up step.
Yeah.
I think our churches baptize all sorts of people and we celebrate that, which is great. But then it's kind of like, has that person become a member? Do they go to church here? And it's like, what are we baptizing them into? Not just Christ, but his body. And I just think like, if our baptism numbers are going up, but our membership numbers aren't, there's some sort of disconnect there.
Big time.
And I know at EV, there's a lot of youth baptized. And what does membership look like for a youth? They're kind of de facto members if their parents are members and those things. But I don't know. I think too often in the past, I've been excited, as we should be, to baptize people. But then I've kind of like not taken the next step of like, you should become a member. Like you should go to 101 now and become a part of the church. Don't just be baptized and then kind of just as if that's the finish line. That's just a starting line to being involved in the local church. And so, I could see that being more challenging at a larger church because you baptize, 30, 40 people on a weekend. It takes a lot of work to follow up and get those people in a membership and do all those things. But anyway, sort of related, sort of not related, but
yeah. I mean, there is an element where, early on in the days of CW, maybe even before you were there, whenever you were doing the double duty thing, I was there pretty regularly. And like, I would notice when there was somebody new, right? I would just look out and be like, I've not seen them before. And then I'd, maybe Katie and I would talk about it at lunch, be like, oh, do you see that family? Like, we should like Facebook stalk them now and see who they are, stuff like that. And just reality is like, I mean, it's not uncommon for me to meet somebody like in a new person class or an NGC 101 and just ask, I never ask, are you new? Because but because of this, but it's like, hey, how long have you been around? And some people be like, oh, about a year.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, wow, I've never seen them.
Yep.
Like never seen them once. Like, and then it is kind of like that, that like once you buy a red Honda, you see all the red Hondas. It's like usually after I've met them once, I like start seeing them on something. Oh yeah, there's Gary or whatever,
Yeah.
And so, but that is just an unfortunate reality. And we can work really hard. Like I'm scanning the auditorium for my member families every week, cause I can miss them. Right. And it's just like, okay, they're there. Okay. That's that family, but that's just a reality of the larger church that, I mean, it makes it so much harder as well to reach out to those new families, right? When you have no idea who they are, or sometimes you don't even know that they were there.
I'm just so grateful for East Vancouver. And I've told a lot of people this because there are a lot of churches that are big that are just, theologically and in the preaching shallow and just not, I mean, they're able to draw a big crowd. I'm not saying all big churches are this way, but, like, I think often if you're going to go to a large church the size of EV, and this is totally anecdotal, maybe I'm way off, but I wouldn't go in assuming I'm going to hear expositional preaching through a book of the Bible.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful that all these people are coming to EV and the Bible, the gospel is being preached expositionally, faithfully, clearly. People are getting saved, are in discipleship, in community. So like, I think East Vancouver is using the large church platform for God's glory and for the mission of the gospel. And so that's great, I just think it's cool because there are people that are going to be drawn to a bigger church where you guys do things excellently, right? The music's good, the building's awesome. And so I'm just glad they're drawn maybe by those things, but then what they get is the word of God faithfully preached every week. So
I think that, and one of the things that made me think of this was just the dynamic of the multi-church. And this is one of the really cool things in multi-church, to be linked together as two, congregations, like local church in Camas, local church in East Vancouver, but we're linked together as lead pastors. We're both NGC lead pastors. We're both preaching through books of the Bible. Sometimes, like here recently with Philippians, we're doing that together in the same text. Sometimes we're not, but like the values, the theology, all that stuff is the same, but the context is so different. And it's so thinking about these type of things that's where that comes from. Is that like it's a part of we're in the same kind of church family here in our county, and then we're sharing resources, and that may look like a staff member who starts out as an intern and grows into a full-time staff member here at EV, then like Max, right, going over and becoming an associate pastor there. Or it may look like a church member who's an intern like Will Gunn over there, who then becomes an intern over here and is growing in on the team here. And so there's those kinds of things that within the church family, and the same doctrine and the same all that alignment and the theological vision and the contextualization in the community, and the DNA being linked, but this just in different expressions size-wise. That's like man, it's so helpful, and it's edifying, and yet at the same time, I also look at it and go, I see the beauty and growth and development and health of Camas at that smaller size dynamic, and I go, man, like I long to see some of those things replicated in a larger church environment, but the obstacles to that, especially a rapidly growing environment, are numerous, right? And so trying to work to, as we grow larger, get smaller and do things well in that sense. And so that's a constant thing, working it out. You know?
And another beautiful and cool thing about multi-church is we've had people from both of our local churches end up at the other because it was a better fit for their family, opportunities to serve in their gifting, connection with community there, and we celebrate that, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not, I've talked to other pastors in kind of multi-site or multi-church models where there's some unspoken rivalry or tension or jealousy when people leave and go to another, even within the same church. And I'm just glad that that's not what we have here. And because I think Tyler's right. Some people are going to thrive at one or the other. And so we can tell them, hey, you're going to get the same doctrine, same type of preaching. But, the other things, the context might be better for your family. So go there, and we wish you well.
Yeah, we've referenced a lot, but Tim Keller had that article years ago, Leadership and Church Size Dynamics. It's actually something we make each employee of our church read kind of as an onboarding thing. But one of the biggest pieces of it that I think are really important in thinking about like what people prefer is he says the reason for being in a smaller church is relationships. The reason for putting up with all the changes and difficulties of a larger church is to get mission done. People join a larger church because of the vision, so the particular mission needs to be clear. He talks just like, and yeah, I've thought about that a lot as it relates to life here at East Vancouver, and just like we have to be clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it, because that's why people are here. But why don't you tell people where they can ask questions? Because my voice just is coughing.
Yes, this probably sparked more questions. And if it did, you can email us at questions at tobethechurch.
Podcast at tobethechurch.
Podcast at tobethechurch.com. I always pay attention when Tyler talks. We'll see you next week.